Welcome back, fellas. Today we're briefly going to look into the subprocess module of Python and how it can help us in our penetration testing and cybersecurity pursuits. Now, in short, with the subprocess module, we can invoke and communicate with system processes from within Python. So the subprocess module also actually lets us send data to standard input and also receive data from std out. Now, many practitioners recommend using the subprocess module for executing operating system commands and for launching programs instead of using the os.system, which we've looked into in the previous video. Okay, now that said, let's actually go to the Python interpreter and import the subprocess module and see what it can do. So I'm going to navigate to the working directory. So the subprocess module is in the Python standard library, which is why it needs not to be installed using pip. We simply import subprocess. Okay, and now if I say subprocess dot and I hit the tab key, it will autocomplete with all the methods that subprocess can do. So out of these, worth mentioning are subprocess p open, which allows us to execute programs in a new process. So since I'm in Windows here, I could just say subprocess p open calc, which is going to open the calculator, as you can see. All right. Another one would be subprocess.call. So this is where we replace the os.system functions. So instead of saying os.system, but we first have to import it, of course, import os. So instead of saying os.system, let's say mkdir new folder 9, which is going to create a new folder in the current directory. We'll say subprocess.call mkdir new folder 9, and then we'll also specify shell equals true. Okay, now if we do os list dir, which is going to list whatever files and folder are in the current directory, we could see that we have it here, new folder 9, and we could delete that with os.system rm dir remove directory new folder 9, of course, hit enter, and then os list dir again, so list dir, and we can see that it's gone. Okay, now another one worth mentioning would be the subprocess.io. Now this actually enables stream handling in Python. I'm sure you know the open function in Python. So like, for example, open file.txt r in reading mode. So we'll say with open file. This is how you usually handle files in Python. So I'm sure you know the open function. Well, this open function, it's been defined in this subprocess.io module. Okay, another one would be the subprocess.os, which provides operating system functionalities and methods. So we could, if we want to learn more about any of these modules in the subprocess module, we could say subprocess, so help subprocess.os, and we get the sort of like a documentation of it. Okay, Control C to actually exit. All right, another one worth mentioning would be the subprocess.sys. Okay, this one is really interesting because it provides access to objects that are used by or interact with the Python interpreter. Like for example, this is argv or syspath. So we have sys.path, but of course we have subprocess.sys.path. So for example, like I said, we have the sys.path. So we'll import sys and then we'll say sys.path, which we've learned previously about in the video about the sys module. Now a similar way to get the same call would be via subprocess.sys.path, which is going to give you exactly the same output. Okay, now let's actually write a simple script that does a ping command, and it's going to execute the ping command depending on the underlying operating system. So we're actually going to use the subprocess module for that. And we'll go to Visual Studio Code here. We'll start by importing. We'll import platform. Okay. You'll understand why in a minute. And we'll also going to import those from subprocess, import popen, and also pipe. So we use pipe as a specific value that will be needed for the std in, std out, and std error variables. Okay, and let's also import from pprint, import pprint. Okay, so we'll actually use pprint for better visualization of the output, hopefully. So pprint is pretty print. Support the pretty print list, tuples, and dictionaries recursively. Okay. Alright, so let's start by saying if platform dot system equals Windows. Remember the platform.system. So we import platform and we look into platform dot system. We actually have to call it as a function. So of course we are in Windows. So if platform.system equals Windows, what do we want to do? So how do we execute the ping command in Windows? We'll say subp, so we instantiate a new variable, and we're actually going to use the popen, open. We have to provide it in the following way. So we'll say ping, and then the argument. So as you can see, args. So popen requires arguments provided in square brackets. So ping, we want to ping google.com. Okay, and afterwards we need to provide the std in, which we said we're going to use the pipe, std error, also the pipe, and of course I should say std out before std. So standard input, standard output equals pipe. Okay, and standard error equals pipe. All right, so standard out, std out, and standard error, we're actually going to look into the subp communicate with input equals none. So we have to, whenever we specify std standard in, standard out, and standard error, we have to use the communicate method from within this popen with the input as none, so that we actually get something in our command prompt when we run this. Okay, and finally, so since we have these, we'll finally gonna print, or better say pprint, the standard. So we're actually going to print the output, of course. Okay, so this happens if we are in Windows. If we're in Linux, it's going to happen the same thing, just that the command is going to be slightly different. So if we'll say if platform.system equals Linux, okay, then we'll say sub p equals p open, and then how do we do ping in Linux? So we're actually looking into bin, not ls, but bin ping, okay, and the argument, one of the arguments is going to be minus C1, so we're only going to ping once, and the third argument is going to be what do we want to ping. So we're going to ping google.com. all right, and then the same thing, std in is the pipe, std out is the pipe, std air is the pipe. Okay, std out std air equals sub p dot communicate input equals none. all right, finally we print or pretty print the std out. all right, now let's save this like that, and if we run it in a command prompt, so we'll say python sub p mode.py, it should ping google.com for once, so one time, and it should work if I haven't screwed it up here. So let's see. Okay, so it will give us probably not the most visually appealing output, but nevertheless the script does its job. So it actually pinged google.com once, and this is the result of the command. As I said, there are numerous ways in which you can leverage the power of the subprocess module for your penetration testing practices. Now, make sure to check out the official documentation over here to learn more about it. That being said, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.